My fellow countrymen and women, fellow Ambazonians, I've decided to come out tonight to address what is going on in Kugwe. Since early this morning, I have been receiving numerous reports about different incidences in Kugwe and allegations that elements of the Amazonian Defense Forces have killed civilians. I have taken time to investigate these allegations. My office has also sent a letter to the office of the Secretary General of the ADF requesting that these allegations are investigated, because irrespective of circumstances, any systematic or deliberate attack on civilians would be a breach of the code of conduct of the Amazonian Defense Forces, and that has to be investigated and action taken. I have been able also to speak with the Supreme Commander of the Amazonian Defense Forces, and I have received a preliminary report on what has happened. I have communicated that report to the relevant organs of the AGOVC and the ADF, and I have also communicated with the Communications Department. I have communicated with the two Deputy Defense Chiefs. I have also exchanged communications with some denizens of Kugwe. I have come out this night because I think I have sufficient information to talk about and to share with the Amazonian people. But before I address what has happened today, let me take you back a bit so you can understand the context. And permit me also say, in the past, I refrained from immediately addressing these issues because I was convinced then, and I am still convinced today, that these are deliberate attempt to deviate, derail, and distract, especially myself, from the daunting challenge and issues I deal with on a daily basis. Reacting to such allegations from persons that you know are infiltrators planted in our war of independence, to act as spoilers, disrupt, and undermine the spirit of the revolution is a distraction. If such allegations are coming from sources that have a balanced view of issues, it is very, very understandable if we react to them promptly. But in the past weeks, I have taken time to try to look at what is going on in Kugwe. As you would know, Kugwe is the headquarters of the Amazonian Defense Forces. And we cannot also pretend not to say the denizens of Kugwe have been very hospitable. Our forces are made up of many soldiers from the village of Kugwe. I have spoken with the phone a couple of times of Kugwe. I have spoken with the phone of Inyo to have an independent understanding of what is going on. Because normally I receive report from our soldiers through their defense leaders. But it was important for me to have a direct conversation with these custodians of our tradition, to have an unbiased understanding of the issues at stake. And I listened to them carefully, and I told them I understood some of the concerns they are raising, genuine concerns, They could not be proven, but there were genuine concerns. And I discussed with them on how we can move forward to find peace and then institute systems that could make sure such concerns do not arise again. But before I spoke with the phone, you might have watched on social media propaganda videos, audios, pictures of the humiliation of the Amazonian Defense Forces, the flag that are brave soldiers captured in battle. And if you look at that flag carefully, there is blood on that flag because a soldier was wounded and that flag was used to reduce the blood flow that the soldier was losing. The flag was taken as a trophy. Our defense flag was taken as a trophy by infiltrators within in Kugwe. I will talk about the specifics of what happened, but what I discussed with the fund was to make sure that the fund plays a role in the administration of the area under our control, and that soldiers should be focused on the defense and liberation of the homeland, while we will set up proxy institutions that will work with the fund to make sure that certain things deemed inconsistent with the spirit of the revolution are dealt with under a civilian administration rather than by the soldiers. The fund also complained that the soldiers had bombed the power plant supplying Kugwe. I did promise, I made a promise to the fund that once we are done with these issues, I'm going to make sure that that power plant is restored. I also told him that once this issue is dealt with, I'm going to set up a specific team to look at the report from the ADF soldiers and the report from his palace and to see where our soldiers made mistakes. And I promised there would be punishment. The first punishment I told him was that the soldiers will be asked to clean the palace for a week, and no soldier will ever be allowed to enter the palace, question the phone, take the phone in custody, as long as the phone professes allegiance to the flag and the anthem. So, and it was a wonderful discussion, and he was happy and for the discussion. I also spoke with some denizens of Kugwe out in the diaspora who were concerned with what was happening, and I made the same promise. After my discussion with the phone, I spoke to the general. I briefed him on my discussion. I told the general, as I have communicated to the ADF, that finding a peaceful solution to the problems in Kugwe is critical for two reasons. One, it will create an environment for coexistence between the forces and the population. Number two, it will test our skills and enhances them on the way you deal with conflict. We could, based on what had happened, find a military solution. We can invade the first, take note, our barrack was not inside, the center of Kugwe. It was in the outskirts. But we have the strength to invade the center and capture everybody. We have that strength. But if any of you has followed the message from the general today, we opted not to engage in any military activities against, the civilians, because the consequences are dire. As you can hear from those ranting out today, the consequences are huge for the reputation of our war of independence and for the morals of our civilian population when they deal with our forces. So we could opt for a military solution, because when you people watch our flag being desecrated, or members of a sister force came into Kugwe and were taking videos, it was because an ADF soldier who was in hospital some of the civilian, the youth who had been intoxicated by the cartel out in the diaspora, moved into hospital and forced the soldier to tell where his gun was being kept, and they took away the gun. They took away the gun from another soldier who was from Kugwe. And then they brought in a former ADF soldier who was a commander in Mbeme and had escaped to Douala. The diasporan cartels immediately moved him into Kugwe to reinforce the proxy forces that had been infiltrated into Kugwe, and also to build what they term a Kugwe force. I spoke with his commander in a three-way conversation. He explained their concerns, and I told him categorically, the general is the supreme commander. If you have concerns and you are supposed to leave the barrack, you leave behind your guns. You don't take away your guns. But take note, since the incidences took place, Kugwe has been under blockade from the ADF. So when I spoke with the phone insisted that they must open the blockade. I went back to the general and said, look, you have to open this blockade. And he said, the situation is a bit complicated because when there was the riot, some Kugweans collaborated and they called in the military. I have some of the videos, I have some of the audios, I have some of the pictures of that collaboration. They brought in the military and there was a huge fight across Batibo right up to Bali for 4 days. We fought off the military. The military had to retreat because special forces from Cameroon military were brought in from Yaoundé because Cameroon's outpost in Ambo could not enter Kugwe, so they had to bring in special forces. If you see the forces that entered Kugwe, if you see the forces that entered Kugwe, you will know they are special forces. And so the general refused opening the blockade and said until those 2 rifles were returned, because he wouldn't take chances opening the blockade just to be attacked by Cameroon alongside the proxy forces. And I made it clear to the few of the soldiers who had decamped that, listen, return the guns, the blockade will be open, and we will create a unit within Kugwe that will be headed by a son from Kugwe, but it will still remain a mixed brigade, since our policy is never to have a brigade that is specifically for denizens from that particular area. First, he told me the rifles were not with him, but a few days before we had that discussion, he had led a few of his guys into Efa, and they had killed the junior brother of our intelligence officer. I think I have forwarded the picture today to our communications team. A few hours after our discussion, I was informed by the person who put us together that the rifles were with him. And they said they were going to speak, they were going to discuss with the phone and allow me address the elite of Kugwe so we can move in lockstep with the agreement. Return the rifles, open the blockade, and then we can have a conversation overseen by the phone of Ange, Inyo, and Efa to find a long-lasting solution. Do not forget, these are the men who liberated this place from the grip of Cameroon. And I explained to the phone, who said some soldiers were rough. I explained to him, do not forget, these are volunteers who've been fighting for almost 3.5 years. Why we cannot tolerate some of the things that they do, you can understand that fighting for 3.5 years without a break, without a pay, under the very, very difficult circumstances, will have some stress on the soldiers that may translate in certain actions that may be in breach of their code of conduct. It is our responsibility to constantly review their actions and take steps to make sure that they are also in a psychological state of awareness and preparedness to continue. Sometimes we move soldiers from barrack to barrack to let them change environment and rebuild their psychology. So the fund and myself agreed on all of these things, and we're looking forward to having the rifles return. I promised the soldiers, because they said maybe if they return the rifles, the general was going to arrest them. I give them my word that that will not be the case. Once the rifles are returned, but before then I will speak to the general that nothing should happen to these soldiers. There should be no punishment for their actions. We should look forward to reconciliation within the village. And you must have heard from the general's audio today saying it's the same practice that happened in Beme when this same soldier, committed a couple of acts within Beme and escaped, to Douala. Unfortunately, what I came to realize was that these men were being micromanaged by people from the diaspora with their own agenda, fostering the division, fostering the hate, fostering the antagonism, to use these men to showcase the fact that the ADF has been humiliated in Kugwe, as they have been parading the social media, talking all the time how the ADF has been thrown out of Kugwe. Sometimes the reality is far different from what they are propagating. But this is war. It's not gossip where each time they throw those propaganda, you come out and you are reacting. Sometimes we simply accept that it may hurt our pride, but coming out all the time to react hurts the revolution. So sometimes we accept that, let our prestige and honor be hurt, but let's protect the integrity of the revolution. Because as we have seen in this war, the truth has always come out in due course. So in the context of this background, we got all of the news today that 30 civilians have been killed, and I immediately swung into action to investigate. And the preliminary report shows one civilian died due to circumstances which the general has basically explained in his audio. Early this morning, I received calls from the renegade soldiers in Kugwe. They were in distress mode. And I still made it clear to them that the offer on the table is still there. Return those 2 rifles, and the blockade will be open, and we will begin peace talks. My fellow people, I've come here to let you understand that we face these challenges on a daily basis. They are deliberately infused within the body politics of our war of independence, propagated by enablers, bloggers, social media activists for their own purposes. I've been reading and listening some of the things being spoken about Mimi Mefo and her writing. I will caution, Mefo is a journalist. You may not like her writings, it may be distorted, but we will challenge her intellectually. And I haven't seen the evidence that, though undermining the ADF, that she may be deliberately trying to undermine a war of independence. So it's fine for her to undermine the ADF and project orders. We can deal with that, and we'll put the facts out. We'll challenge them from an intellectual perspective. It has been a routine in our war of independence that all the medias within Ambazonia basically do not really write about the ADF, and there is a reason. To get an article in the media, you need to pay, and so the others usually pay for those things, and so you don't have a kind of free journalistic attitude where people do investigative journalism and are willing to come out with the facts, to also protect their own character. But all through this war of independence, we've been able to challenge attackers, those who propagate falsehood from an intellectual standpoint, based on the facts, we have been able to dig them out, and we've been able to shame them. And we will continue to do that. I have said that all those who believe in character assassination, who believe in thinking that they can destroy the ADF, it's simply because they have failed woefully to project an alternative. You know, the ADF is the force. The narrative we put forward there is the only narrative. The National Liberation Strategy is the only strategy. It is allowed for everyone to copy and implement. But if you think, you know, you are going to attack the integrity of the Amazonian Defense Forces, its leadership, and the soldiers on the ground, know this today. There is a likelihood, I said it to a couple of comrades the other day, that 98% of the commanders you speak to had be or are commanders of the Amazonian Defense Forces. You look at what is happening in Bui. All of these propaganda that they propagated against General Efang, they kidnap our men from Mezam, from Momo. They spewed hate, thinking that they are attacking, you know, the integrity of Dr. Ayaba, the leaders of the AGOFC or the ADF. What they did not know, as I have said, even to the ADF, if you attack other forces, you weaken their resistance on a particular flank, and you make that flank weak. And next, you see La Republique will come through that flank to kill you. And that's exactly what we are seeing in Kumbo today, with the Bui warriors almost acting like an occupied force. But take note, and this message goes to the Bui warriors and all of the small cartels around attacking the ADF. We will get you. It's a matter of time. We will get you. Don't think we are worried if you attack the ADF. We are not worried. We are only worried if that attack has a negative impact on our progress towards liberating our homeland. But we will take you out. It's a matter of fact. We are working 24/7 to make sure that the soldiers, the infiltrators transferred or to Cameroon or killed, that we find them, know either where they are buried or where they are, so we can communicate that to their families. But for all the commanders within the Bui warriors who ordered or executed our soldiers, we will take you out. We will take you out. You will be held accountable individually. We have no problem with the Bui warriors, but we have a specific problem with any commander that pulls the trigger on our soldiers. And that holds true also for ADF commanders. If you pull your trigger on other soldiers, we are going to hold you responsible. And let me also let you know, we have developed an Amazonian Code of Justice. That Code of Justice criminalizes kidnapping for ransom, extortion. It criminalizes attacking our civilian population. It criminalizes embezzlement. Embezzlement is one of the greatest crimes that has afflicted the continent of Africa and caused the death of millions of people. And Amazonia will not tolerate for one day corrupt institutions or corrupt leaders. And a code of justice criminalizes those who receive public funding and mismanage. I use the word mismanage, or steal those funds. You will be held accountable. I want to assure our civilian population to be resilient, and to understand that we are at war. We are at war. It is unacceptable, like what happened in Kugwe, or I heard being propagated in Bambili, for any fund, any chief, any civilian population to call in the military. It has cost the blood of our finest men and women to liberate areas. If there are people there that attack civilians, that commit crime, we will hold them individually responsible. We'll be providing telephone numbers and email addresses for you to report any act of any crimes that are committed against the civilian population. But anyone who calls in the military will also hold you responsible. This is not a joke. This is not politics. And why we totally reject Any action by our soldiers that infringes on the dignity of our civilian population, that you know raises the level of insecurity amongst our civilian population. I totally also frown at any village, any community that calls in Cameroon, the occupier, to set up shop or, attack our soldiers. Cameroon has not protected you for the past 60 years. It's not going to protect you in the next 100 years. So we must find mechanisms, to deal with some of the ills that, are ills that happen in every revolution. Every revolution have this fringe, you know, section of society that engages in illegal actions. But we work extremely very hard to make sure that we can take care of these things. And that's why the ADF presented a code of conduct that informs and educate soldiers on their rights, responsibilities, and obligation towards the civilian population. The code of justice is a criminal law code that criminalizes certain acts and also puts in place remedial outlets. So the Amazonian Defense Force is operating across the territory. It is powerful. It's extremely very powerful. We operate in areas that most other groups don't operate in. And I'm proud of the strength and resilience of our forces. I'm proud for the trust that the Amazonian people have in our forces and the strategy that has worked, that has been able to bring us here. Every step we've made backward have been orchestrated deliberately by those who are afraid that Amazonia will be liberated and they will become redundant in the history of our country. Remain confident in the strategy. We will take care of some of the nuances that happen. I give you my word all the time. This war of independence will be fought based on the respect and protection of human dignity, even the dignity of those who hurt us. And we will not deviate from that trajectory. So I implore you to continuously commit to the tough program. Behind the tough is a national liberation agenda that will take us closer, strengthen us on the ground, and give us a bargaining power at the level of the international system. Inject an element that protects our civilian population. Create a policing system that can deal with the issue of kidnapping for ransom and extortion. We will continuously face these challenges, but we were structured to deal with them. We are a system built on rules, laws, and no action will be taken arbitrarily. We will work to make sure our action fit squarely with the spirit of our code of conduct that was designed in reflection of international humanitarian law and human rights principles. We will continuously make ourselves proud to win based on the strength of our argument, not on the degradation of the character of those we may disagree with. We will continuously make sure our strategy is well explained and that we can move you from point A to point B, making sure you understand how we got there. So far, we haven't failed you, not at the level of self-defense, not at the level of internationalization, not at the level of targeted diplomacy. We have not also failed you on the issue of managing the funds you commit to our revolution in the best way possible. And you can trust that every dime you've ever given to us, we've added 2 more to make sure we foster the day that you will be free. Our people are held captives by a narrative injected constantly by infiltrators who are afraid to lose. Amazonia wins, everybody wins. God bless you all. Good evening.